Hi everyone, welcome to the Stage Door Show. I'm Dave Hondel. Tonight's guest blends smooth jazz and R&B into a brand new remix and release of his debut project, the Brax-Tone Experience, a heart-caressing collection of original and timeless R&B singles. He's a native of the legendary Music City of Detroit. So please welcome to the show, Mr. Reggie Braxton. Reggie, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Yeah, glad to be here with you, Dave.
I know we were having a great conversation before we started recording. I said, hey, hold on, we gotta start recording and actually capture this stuff. So we were talking about R&B, and my love of R&B and jazz, and how your project is so amazing. And I watched the video. I watched a video called Love Guarantee, and it was a music video that's on YouTube. But what I want to kind of start this conversation again, because you're talking about when you recorded that video, and and talk about that, the making of that, and also how that became part of your project.
Yeah, so it was pretty interesting how a friend of mine who actually he penned this song, Jay Powell, and he basically, he says the stories that I gave him about my relationship, it helped him write the song. And so once we got started, of course, I added my 2 cents in just to make it real to me. And so it was very interesting putting a song out that was, they said in order for it to be heartfelt, it has to be heart sent. So that song there is definitely true in the words. And basically I was talking to my wife that this love is guaranteed, and so really got into the song, and based on everything I've learned, I was able to get some emotion out of the song. And so it was, I felt like it was a story, real story.
But it was well shot too, by the way, whoever filmed it. And I mean, it was so crisp and just beautifully shot. It really told the story, and really felt the emotion, and you're singing in it, and just you on camera, it really kind of puts you into that place of, you can really believe every word that you said. So just a great piece of work. And, and also this project, the Brax-Tone Experience, talk about that, because a lot of the stuff is remixed and re-released essentially. So I guess what kind of brought you to that point of doing this project and remixing things and re-releasing it? I mean, I guess when did you decide to do that?
Well, it's funny how things just seem to, you go on the journey, and then things just kind of come together, So every one of these songs on here, these it's been inspired by something. So, you start off with a song that I wrote was Just Like You. So we, and it's hard to say, because when I hear the music, I don't know where it comes from. They say music is spiritual, so I just listen. And it's weird. Words just come to me, and then a melody, and then if it sticks, I say, man, this, I think this works. So it kind of happens like that with me, and then I just get inspired. It's funny, like at the end, I got a picture of Bob Marley up here, who was one of my heroes too, and so when I end this tune, it kind of, I felt some of his influence on that, and I said, could it be love? Could it be love? So that ending on there, if you listen to that, that's really was an influence of Bob Marley. So, and I think all the songs that I do, or things, how do I say it? With all the experiences you have, you don't know which is going to come out at you, and when you're into these songs. So it's, I just kind of play it by ear. Nothing is ever pre-planned. And because to be genuine, I think it just needs to come out. You got to, some type of way, you just got to let it flow. And so that's kind of how my approach is. And I'll put it out there when in the studio, and I say, man, that sounds pretty good. And it's like you be out of body experience, and you go back and you say, hey, okay, we can use that. So it kind of develops kind of like that. But yeah, these songs, each one of the songs on there, you know, it's a story behind it, and they all pretty much are real stories to me.
Baby, I see you over there, looking so good. Just like you. In my mind, I'm just trying to figure out what I'm gonna say to you, baby. 'Cause in my dream, she looked just like you. Just like you. Listen, if you could read my mind, I'm saying you're so fine, the way I feel. And I know it's real. You're looking at me, I'm looking at you, thinking about what we could do together. Ooh, yeah. Trying to think of the right words to say. I let my heart lead the way, and this is what he said. I've been waiting for someone who looks just like you. I've been wanting to kiss someone who looks just like you. The look of love is in your eyes, reflects my heart's inside. Amazing, amazing, yeah. I wanna take you out to dance. I'm feeling good, I feel romantic for you, baby. Yeah, baby, someone to get a little closer to you.
You know,
Yeah.
in some type of way. I'm a romanticism.
Yeah.
And all of these songs, Strangers in the Night, songs that I've always loved. And I even this is a great story about that. When I was recording this one, and I just had this feeling like Frank Sinatra. I was thinking about him, and so I said, let me go back in. So when I went in, I said, well, this is for Old Blue Eyes. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to that, but if you haven't, and then say this is for Mrs. Sinatra. So when I said that, I felt like it was like a breeze in the room. It was weird, you know.
Really?
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So just a lot of interesting things happen in pursuit of recording this album. So I'm just really I'm excited about what I hear and what's going on. I remember when I first started and trying to record and listen to myself, man, I said, man, I don't like how I sound. And, you know, and people would say, man, you sound pretty good, you know, but when I heard myself, I just didn't like what I was hearing. And so when I got to the point, whereas, you know, that sounded pretty good, you know, and so I was happy to finally reach that point. But yeah, this project was just really, I'm really proud of it, how it turned out, and seemed like things just kind of just coming to its own. We had a situation with one of the remakes with I redid Erykah Badu's Next Lifetime. So back in 2012, I had that idea, right? And me and a friend of mine was doing something. It just didn't work out, but I really liked the lyrics. And I said, you know, from a man's perspective. And so at the time, you know, I was in a relationship, and then and I was thinking about how real it is. And I said, well, you know, you get a couple situations that come at you and you say, wow, you know, how she says, well, I'm in a situation. You know, I'm in a situation. I like you too, but you know, I'm in a situation. So I remember thinking about that, and I say, well, you know, I'm in a committed relationship. Yeah, it'd be nice, but it can't happen. Next life. So I say, well, I could feel, you know, it's a story that I feel like I could tell, you know, I experienced that. And so, you know, all of the songs in some type of way, I have to feel, get something or be inspired to where I can live this song out and tell the story, because they're all stories. And that's kind of how I look at that. So I don't know how I got there, but.
That's amazing. You know, and then just speaking of Erykah Badu, you know, her music director, Norman Keys Hurt, actually remixed this entire album, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
That is correct. And that's what I was alluding to. And thank you for keeping me on track. with that, how things has kind of developed. So this thing really started back in 2012. So you fast forward, when I first tried to put the song out and on my album, I was told I couldn't do it, right? And so I told the guy, Chris, who is really a guy out in California, who really likes my music and really helping me out a lot and point me in the right direction. And so I said, hey, man, why don't you go back to him and see if we can make something happen? So they said, well, okay, well, let us review your entire album. So they reviewed my entire album. And they said, well, hey, this is pretty good. And he said, well, only one condition is if you let me remix it. And I'm saying, man, this is a no-brainer, of course.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Where do I sign? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I told Chris, I said, hey, man, why don't you go back and see if he could do the whole album, because I would like him to do it. And so we're able to work that out. And so it just made it seem like, man, this something is going on. This is some good stuff to be able to have. And I did the research on it. I said, this guy's a Grammy-winning cat, and Erykah Badu's music director. So, and this is something that's good is happening. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, yeah. So I'm excited about that, and I think it really helped my project out a lot. And some of the things that he did that just brought everything up, to the standard it should be.
Yeah, it was definitely amazing. And, music, I'm guessing, was around the house. And then your cousin Melvin was one of the original Temptations. So talk about growing up around music and just being in Detroit itself, because, I don't think people realize that Detroit, not only just Motown, but there's so many, the who's who of music, around that time frame came out of there. So talk about just growing up there. And I guess, do you feel fortunate that you were able to grow up in a city like Detroit where the music was just second to none?
Yeah, it's you when you're in it and you're growing up, you're a kid, music was, as you said, music was such a big part. I always, for some reason, I remember the summertime, because that's when you're in the street, you can play and you got the music up loud and so those memories are great. And so around the house, it was my grandmother. And she was the one that was a blues singer. She was just amazing, always positive, and always would want to try to show me. It was a song that she loved, Since I Fell For You. And so I remember when I started gigging, and because at one point I was just committed to doing jazz and standards. And so I used to call her Biggs. I said, Biggs, let me show you how I do this tune that you've been singing all the time. So I'll go through the song and doing my version of Since I First. She said, go, this how you do it.
So you're getting some real feedback. There you go. I love it.
She said, this how you do, and then she would go into her thing where she'd be wailing,
Normally, you have somebody like a relative that says, "Oh, you sound great, honey. You sound great." No. You're getting the real feedback.
No, that's how you do it. So she was.
That's funny.
She had a little small little organ around the house, and she would do her little church things, whatever she would do.
Yeah.
And so remember, she wasn't playing a whole lot. But she had her thing that she would go in and she'd sit down there and do her thing. And so, I loved it. And so the story with Melvin is funny. Each time I do these podcasts, some different stuff come at me. So
sure.
My grandmother's was English, right? Her last name was English. And so Melvin's Franklin, his name, you can Google this, his name is English as well. Right. And so he married when my Aunt Rose, we call her, she's like a cousin. I call her my Aunt Rose, which was Melvin's mom. Her dad and my grandmother's dad were brothers.
Oh, okay.
Right. So when I just know they called him, his stepdad was called Dick, right? So I just remember that. And then when he married my Aunt Rose, he took on Franklin.
Okay.
Right. So So anyway, I just said that to say that, that's how, that's just some family history with that there. But, growing up and having them come over to the house, and it would be like David Ruffin and one of the other oldest, and one of them, they would come by, they had on like little colored t-shirts at the time. And
Yeah.
then they had the little do-rags, how they had, you had, with they had like, they call it like Tony Curtis or they had different names for the hairstyle.
Sure.
I don't know if you know anything about that, but they would I remember coming over, and we would be out in the alley playing basketball at the hoop, and then they would come out and hang out, and then next thing you know, they're on Ed Sullivan or something like that.
Wow, that's
so
crazy.
It's just like,
wow.
It's
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
Then we just didn't really see them much after they start on the road and doing their thing. So, but it was enough to just really keep you excited, and always made me want to be part of music. We would go to the Motown Review, and we had a chance to go behind the stage. We used to be in the Fox Theater.
Wow.
And we would with Stevie Wonder, Martha Reeves, Mary, all of the Motown acts, and to be able to go behind there. And then he would say, hey, like we would say, for example, Pine Knob, we would go there, and he would say, hey, like all these people we talking about, I've been talking to my cousin about, no, these is my real cousins right here.
Yeah.
So, really funny stories. I remember too, gigging around, and we're nowhere near that level. And then my friend, who was a really great guitarist, he said, man, you give him the tape. So I remember giving him a little tape or something,
Yeah, the cassette tape. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember those days. I guess, when did you start loving like the R&B, jazz type music? Because I know your grandma sang the blues, but when did you really become, and who influenced you, I guess, to be able to love that kind of music? I mean, to get into it so much that you became a professional musician doing that kind of music.
Once again, I think what happens is what you're exposed to. So, you had once again, my grandmother, she played, like Arthur Price side. She had, Marvin Gaye. My mom would play Marvin Gaye, all those kind of stuff. So you grew up listening to all these different types of music. So I tell people all the time that I used to for some reason, I remember America. I used to love America. I used to love Chicago.
Oh, wow.
All these different genres of music.
Genres, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but they would all have, if you know anything about these guys are all soulful, and I just like the tone or whatever. So all these different songs and people that I listened to. So once I had a chance to do it myself, it's like, even is indicated like on my album, you can see I get, I even have some Drake, I have some Frank Sinatra, I get Anthony Hamilton. So I'm kind of all over the place. That's because I truly like, and I'm just, really just touching the tip of the iceberg in terms of all the type of genres. But what comes out is basically what people, I always had a jazzy sound, I guess. No matter what I do, I don't care what type of song, some type of way, people say, Reggie, you jazzy, So it is kind of developed into that. And then at one point, I was just doing all standards, because I loved them so much. I would listen to Frank Sinatra. I would listen to Andy Bay. I would listen to Lonnie Liston Smith, all these guys who came out the Price side. And then when Luther came on, I remember this was in the 80s when I started. Luther was, I think he was with Change at first when he redid this Georgie Porgy tune too, which is when he came out with that Georgie Porgy, when Coco had did that tune, I said, man, this would be a great tune to redo. And then I heard Luther come out.
Yeah.
He was with Change and did that. And it was the same thing with Todd Rundgren with the Isley Brothers, and they did Hello It's Me. So a lot of people didn't know it was Todd Rundgren.
Yeah.
out and do that. And so I kind of was this, I felt that same thing because I say good tunes come from everybody.
Right.
Like, you know, but good tunes are good tunes. And then, but people who like, say like Ron Isley or Luther, who hear these tunes say, man, or he hears Burt Bacharach and he puts some things, you know, these are great songs.
Yeah.
But one, it starts with a great song, and then someone who's a singer, in which I've learned, you know, what's your interpretation? You know, how are you going to present that?
Right.
What is your voice? You
Yep.
know? And so I guess I learned that just by being around music, being around people who are professional, that, you know, what is Reggie Braxton? You know, because I can't sing like anyone else. So how do I find my own voice?
Yeah.
And then you know, it's inside.
Do you feel that the love of different kinds of genres of music, so many different kinds, and your exposure to different kinds of music has helped you kind of write and kind of put your unique little spin on it, because you might use elements of different genres in your music to make it more, I guess, unique? Because I know a lot of people collaborate with people outside of their typical genre of music, and it really kind of broadens their base of listeners to do that, because you're bringing in a whole new listening audience that might not have been yours at first, but by singing, you know, maybe a song a certain way or collaborating with somebody who's from a different genre, you're basically broadening your listening audience. Do you ever consider that when you're writing music?
Well, you know, I think a lot of things, it's like this, man, unconsciously, I don't know, these things that are part of you, when you sit down and you come up with things or ideas, or you hear something, you know, I think they just kind of come together, you know, and it just comes out. If I had only been listening to, say, the blues, for example, then I would be singing the blues.
Yeah.
But by me listening to growing up listening or being attracted to a lot of different type of music, you know, I guess it puts me in a unique space. But I don't look at it like that. It's just more of what I feel inside. I'm not trying to be in any certain particular. I just kind of let it come out naturally, whatever it comes out with.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. You know, and you know, also performing live, is that something you do a lot of, or did you used to do it? And what is your philosophy on performing live? I know a lot of people like to record and put out music, but sometimes they follow it up with like maybe either a tour or, you know, playing locally, just to, you know, see what the immediate reaction is of the crowd, you know, to your music. Do you ever test your music out in front of a live audience just to see what their reaction is?
Oh yeah, for sure. So as I was saying before, prior to doing this music project, you know, I was gigging around the city, and sometimes I would throw original song in there, and then people would always say, you know, what was that? Oh, that's nice. So I've done that a few times on my gigs, where I throw something original in and get a really good response. So I have gotten positive feedback to let me know, well, this is something that you should be doing. But what happens is, for me, is that just growing up the way I grew up, I had to work, and I said, you know, I never want to go back. I always said, I never want to go back down to the number streets. And so I got to keep working, but at the same time, I got to keep my music going. Right. So I think ideally, as a kid, you know, it's great if you can get started and learn some of the foundations as a kid when you have time to do it. But as an adult, you know, I had to make time. I would be up, I work, then I come home, I practice, you know, practice. And then once I get good enough to gig, I will go to work, pack up all my stuff. When I get home, load it up, go to my gig, play, come back home, set it back up because I got to practice. Then I go to work. So that's really been my life.
And then do it all over again. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
So, and then I used to, I haven't shared this before, but for the most part, I would play the piano and sing, right?
Yeah.
most of my gigs, I'm playing and singing. And so I get more comfortable sitting behind the piano.
Yeah.
Right. So then I said, wow, I didn't feel like it was a great pianist, but I played good enough to sing and play. So now I'm standing up, and I started working on that in a few years back. I said, I got to get my chops. I was basically gigging around just playing and singing. And so, but I knew that eventually I was going to put the piano aside, let somebody else play, and then I stand up front and do my thing. And so that's been interesting there too, but enjoyable,
Yeah.
So anyway, music is just, it's always something more you can add on to your game, and,
Right.
And then it's funny because it's a song by John Legend and Andre 2000, and he was saying to John Legend, even Stevie Wonder got up from behind the piano.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that, but it's a lyric in there, and so it seems like
amazing.
I always get messages.
Yeah.
I always get messages about everything.
Yeah.
That's how I look at them, and so I just kind of roll with that because I know it's real.
Do you ever get? Did the words come to you first, or the melodies come to you first when you write, or both?
A lot of times it's the melody. It's like I'll sit down, I hear something, and like I was just sitting here. A lot of times I sit down at the piano when you were coming on, and a lot of times I'll sit down and I'll hear something through a melody. I'm playing around with the piano.
Yeah.
I hear something like that. But I'll have, most of the time, that's how mine come for me. Sometimes I'll have ideas about songs or topic I want to. But for the most part, I think, I'm thinking about, as you asked me, I think it generally comes from the melody. I'm inspired by that musical melody, and then I'll wait for that lyric or that hook to hit me,
Yeah. I mean, I think music writing is phenomenal, and sometimes I have a lot of respect for people who can write music like yourself, and and a lot of times, like I'm more visual because I used to do music videos, so I'll get an idea in my head visually for a song that's given to me. But sometimes I'll be in bed and I'll think of something, and I literally have to get up and either write it down or talk into my voice memo. Otherwise, I'll forget it, and I don't want to forget those ideas because I think they come to you for a reason, right. And you don't want to you don't want to miss the opportunity. So does that same thing happen to you?
Yeah, exactly. It's funny you mentioned that. So if you listen to "I Pray It's You," right? So that song there, actually, I love Michael Franks. He's like one of my favorite artists. And so I actually, it's a song, actually, I Hope It's You. And so I really get the idea, and I just changed the lyrics.
Everyone knows that it's hard to meet someone who is lovely and fine as you. And out of nowhere, I saw you standing there. Is it you? I'm thinking that love will never find me. The blues and love is all I knew. What a magical day, and I really pray it's you. I pray it's you. I pray you want me to. I pray it's you. I pray you want me to.
But I was in bed, and my wife and I would get up like like yourself, it would be like 3 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, and I know I have to get up, and then I would go in there and I would sing that melody. I put those words down, and then I was able to remember it. So a lot of times, like you're saying, it hits me really late at night like that.
Yeah.
And I have to get up just like you. It's funny you said that it works exactly the same way
Yeah.
with me, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think creative people, anybody that's in creative arts or just anything, you know, when you have an idea, I think your mind is always working in that type of capacity where you're always trying to think of new ideas and you're always trying to think, what can I do next? And what can I do to reinvent what I've already done? And I mean, I think out of the millions and millions of people who are creative and who, you know, I'm just surprised that there's not more music that sounds alike, you know, because there's only a certain amount of chords that you can play, but you know, to be creative and in a way that nobody else has done it. I mean, that's for me that's a miracle to have something that you put together and you know you put it out to the world and people. It touches people. I mean, there's nothing more gratifying, I don't think, in the world to have one of your pieces of work affect somebody emotionally, either, you know, good, or maybe they remember something that's sad in their life. But at the same time, it's a memory, and there's nothing like music to bring back a memory. It's like a smell, you know, it's like when you walk in, you know, you used to walk into your grandma's house or something and she had a certain candle going or something like that. I mean, those types of things, you know, I still to this day, it brings back those memories, but there's nothing like music. I remember, I said this on a recent show, but you know, there was a certain, I used to have a Walkman, if you remember those, a Walkman with a cassette tape. So I had, you know, in the 80s, you know, I was walking to work and I had like a 30-minute walk to work. So I would walk down this certain block, but you know, in the progression of that tape, that certain block was a certain song, you know, so I had little landmarks that the song would come on in the cassette tape. So every time I hear that music now, I remember the block that I used to walk, that I would hear that song. So there's nothing like music to really bring back memories. And, you know, I guess in that respect, you know, this question here is, you know, do you have a memory of a song that you remember, I mean, to this day that you remember growing up that you'll never forget, and that it kind of helped, I guess it helps inspire you to, you know, to write certain music yourself. Do you have like a certain song by an artist?
Man, you know, you know, Smokey Robinson was such an amazing, performing artist, but he was such a great writer, and how he would, just come up with just amazing lyrics and amazing melodies. He's still, you know, he's still one of my favorites, you know, and I think about him. And one of the songs, the only reason I think about this song here, it was called More Love. And that was the first song. I remember my good friend Vincent, he's passed away, but he was the one, I remember telling this story. I was saying, Vince, you know what, man, and I really think I could sing, right? And then he say, well, okay, let me hear what you got, Red. So I remember, and I'll get back to this here. And so it was by the Bloodstones. They were really a fantastic R&B group. So I did the song. He said, all right, take the music, cut the record player off. Let me hear you, you know. Let me hear you.
Let's hear you sing what you can do.
Yeah. So anyway, I sang this thing. He said, Reg, you can sing. And so then I started doing, he would start, I said, man, you know, Reg can sing, man. Reg, sing that song. I said, oh man, he said, how you gonna be a singer and you scared to sing? You bash about singing. He said, well, you gotta sing the song. So anyway, I would always sing More Love. But I did it, of course, Smokey Robinson had a really high voice, but I just, whatever song here, I could do it at my own register.
Right.
And that song kind of sticks out because it was kind of the first song that gives me memories. Think about my best friend who passed, because he would always have me to sing that song. So
yeah, wow.
And it was by the great Smokey Robinson too, who was super inspirational in what he was able to do.
I was able to do a music video with his keyboard player and New Power Generation from Prince, Tony Burgos Orchestra. There was a collection of folks that got together from these great bands and had a project, and I was so lucky to be able to work with them. But yeah, I loved talking to her, the keyboard player, and just amazing work. But want to ask you some advice, because you said something that kind of stuck with me earlier, and I want to see if you can expand on that a little bit. But we have a lot of new artists, obviously, that listen to our show, and a lot of independent artists that work really hard for their craft, and always trying to get to the next level. But one thing you said earlier, when you used to take your equipment, set it up at the gig, and then break it down, bring it home, set it back up again to practice, go to work, come back home, break it down, go to the gig, So what talking to somebody that's maybe just getting started, who wants that career in music and wants to be on the big stage someday and just make great music, it comes at a cost. It's that it doesn't come easy. So talk to that artist out there that's just out of college and wants to do this for a living. And what would you say to that person? What's your biggest piece of advice?
Well, I think the big thing is like anything, that you pursue, and you want to be great at it. It takes a lot of time, and it's sacrifice too. You love something. I would come home and I'd be up late at night practicing, and I think that's the thing. You have to be committed to your craft. You got to be open to learn. I think you got to always be a student. I think that you want to stretch out beyond your comfort zone. And even I tell you some things that I may be off point, but I think if you get an opportunity to study classical or get a chance to really learn some of this other, it'll broaden your ability to be creative. If I could have had the opportunity to really take more courses, classes, just to expand the fundamentals of music.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these kids, and they're doing the sampling and things like that. But I really think that it's important to put the work in and practice and practice and practice and practice. I think that's really, when I look at or hear about stories about all of them, whether it's Kanye, whether it's Jay-Z, all these guys are so committed, where everybody was out hanging out.
No, they were practicing. Yeah.
They were practicing. And so nothing will prepare you better than when you get ready to go out on stage, and then you're able to really put that work in and go through these tunes 100 times a piece. When you go out there, everything works out better for you. So, and just being around the right people who are trying to do the same thing that you're doing, I think is very important. So I would say those type of things I think is very important.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And that's so well said. Just to expand on that, I've talked to a lot of people in different genres. It doesn't matter what genre, people that are successful have that quality and that trait of practice. And, and one time I was talking to an acquaintance who's been in several, famous 80s bands, as a guitar player. And what he told me is that, because he played several different types of gigs, big gigs, on big stages for different big people. But he said, I don't want to be the guy showing up to practice and not knowing the material just because I played with this person. Now I'm playing with them, but they don't care about that. They don't care about my other gigs. They expect me to come into that practice and knowing my material. And I don't want to be the person that's bringing the team down because I'm not prepared. So being prepared is so ultra important if you're going to be a musician, actor, anything. that requires, being part of a collaborative group, the last thing you want to do is be the one that's not prepared. So I think practice is even, it's not just for your own craft, but it's to also make sure that you're part of the bigger collaboration, that, being in a band, or, even if you're the lead singer and you're the head of it and you're paying all the band members, you want to be prepared, because it's your talent that's also making them look good. So I thought that's well said on your part. So thank you for that advice. I think a lot of times, I think younger people mostly, who kind of grew up with the technology and grew up with AI and grew up with some of these things that when we grew up, we didn't have. So you had to put in those hours, and that, kind of, schlepping things around and doing that type of work. I think there's a lot to be said for growing up like that and understanding the value of practice and hard work. So thank you for that. I also want to ask you, when it's all said and done, Reggie, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to leave behind to those who listen to your music, and just those who know you as a person? What kind of story do you want to leave behind to them?
Well, I think that, I'm hoping that what music has done for me, in terms of reason why I wanted to be a part of it, because of when I hear music, if I like a song, man, I want to hear it over and over again. If I really like something, and I could be in a downer, and then I put music on and brings me up. So I can create music that somebody from Reggie Braxton, they say, yeah, you want to hear, man, let me rewind that again. Let me hear that again, and make them feel a certain way. Man, what a blessing that would be, to have someone, to be able to have people enjoy my music like I've enjoyed, all the music that I've had in my life, and what it's done for me. If my legacy could leave music that will be here and people enjoying it when I'm long gone, that means a lot. And then also too, a person who just, some people get success at an early age, but to have the tenacity or the love for something, doesn't matter if you become famous or not, but you're something that you love so much that you're never going to give up. And so, you can make it young, or you can make it later in life. So I just think having the love of people knowing that, well, you know what, Reg never really gave up on his music, and some great things happen. And now, it's left some music that we can enjoy forever. My kids can say, hey, granddad or whatever, this is what he did. He loved it. And, people can enjoy it forever. So that's what I would say, hey, if you love this music thing, like my grandmother, she never stopped singing till she passed. My cousin Melvin, all he did was sing. So he never stopped. So I just think something that's in you, you just continue. And it's a love affair along the way, whether you get a chance to, hopefully I get a chance to do it on a larger scale. But if not, I have a lot of fun down here. Like I said, as music, you be down here, you doing your thing. My wife may be upstairs. I may be down here till 3 a.m, just doing my thing, but I'm in here, right. So
you're like me. This is my sanctuary right here. This is where I do all my creative work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I think you said you had a number. You had something that charted on Mediabase, right?
Yeah. So actually, the unique thing about this project is that a lot of these tunes have been getting some notice, and I like this one I mentioned, I Pray As You. So we had a guy from the gospel grind contact us and say, hey, man, we want to put this on gospel. So when I did the song, I did it. I mean, it's I Pray As You. Certainly I'm praying to God,
Yeah.
But I never felt it was a gospel cut,
Yeah.
And so that thing, man, it got up to 30, and it still has a bullet 31 on the gospel. Then it's like, I don't know, I think it was 35 or something on the smooth jazz. And
Yeah.
so, and then Miss Riddle, that's another thing that kind of threw me off. I really did this by Boss Skaggs. You're talking about some of my musical heroes.
Yeah.
This song here, I don't know if you had a chance to check that one out, but this wasn't a real popular song. Dirty Low Down, that was one of his big hits. But sometimes, Dave, I like some songs that were not the necessarily hits,
right.
And but they were a hit with me, like that Miss Riddle, we did a John Legend tune called Take Me Away. That wasn't his song, but I really liked the story, and I felt like I was in there. I was there. I was like, I was proud of the story,
I hear you. I'm the same way. It's funny because, obviously you got the hits and, it gets all the views and everything like that. But we talk about this on our show a lot too, but a lot of the people that tour in Europe, like around Europe and Brazil and overseas, there's just such a love of music over there, especially Europe, that they, it doesn't matter, somebody could be in their 70s and they're still selling out arenas. And, even if their song or their music or voice isn't the same, when somebody loves somebody's music, they'll follow you for a lifetime. And it's not just the hits, it's the music that's like the number 8, the number 9, the number 10 cut on a CD or an album. That, it doesn't matter. I mean, if they appreciate the music and the song, it doesn't matter if it's on the charts or not. They're going to love and they're going to know who wrote that music. They're going to know who played piano. They're going to know who played saxophone. They're going to know everything about it. And they're just, I can't say enough about, not saying that, US fans aren't great either, but it's just over there. It just seems like people appreciate the artist for longer and they appreciate them. It's not like, well, what's the next new thing? They're going to follow their groups, until they're no longer, I mean, the music lives forever. So it's like, but they're going to follow them and go to their concerts, so that's the one thing I've really noticed about overseas. And everybody I talk to, it just talks so fondly about being in, and they can't wait to go on these European tours because they just absolutely love the reception that they get in these countries. And so anyway, that's what I've been listening to on these podcasts for several different artists. They all say the same thing. So, I just wish, here it'd be like more like that, where somebody's song isn't just popular for 10 weeks on the chart and then it goes away. Like it's popular all the time, that the music is the music, and sometimes the new music that takes over isn't as good. I don't think sometimes as a music that kind of fades off into the distance,
It's interesting what you say, and it's really the history. When you look at some of the great artists who they had to, especially in the jazz vein, they had to go over to Europe, and where they was very well received.
Yeah,
they circle back, but that's been the history of like you say, overseas, whereas they have I've always heard that they have more of appreciation for what we do. And I can actually have This Next Lifetime was my understanding was at some point in the UK was the number 1 most requested song in the UK for a new artist that was over there now.
Yeah.
That's what was told to me. So I'm looking forward. Hopefully I'll get an opportunity to get a chance to share my music over there and do some performing as well.
I want to get to your social media here. I know your YouTube is at Reggie Braxton 1392, and your Instagram is at Reggie Braxton 007. And for those of you who are looking to check out Reggie's work, you're not going to be disappointed. It's really great work, and definitely go on to YouTube and check out his videos. Really, really well done. Really great music, and your Instagram. I just followed you today, and I knew you have quite a few followers. You have over 11,000 followers, so you have a great presence on your social media. But tell us again before we end this to about your new project, Brax-Tone Experience. So talk about that and how people can find it.
Okay, it's called now the Brax-Tone Experience Deluxe.
Deluxe.
Able to add three new songs on there, and I'd like to say really by Norman Keys Hurt putting his remix on it. It's really a whole new feel, and I just would love for people to go out and just put your ears on it, and I don't think that you'll be disappointed. As I said, we're on all digital platforms, as Dave was saying, and just look forward to having people to be able to put my music on and then listen to it over and over again, like the favorite cuts that I had.
Yeah.
So that would just be the biggest blessing ever.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Reggie, I can't thank you enough for being on the show. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and I can't wait to have you back. And we can talk about the success of the Brax-Tone Experience Deluxe. After it's been out for a little bit. So thank you again for taking the time and the honor of your time to be on the Stage Door Show tonight.
Well, thank you. I'm honored as well, and just to hear your story was very interesting, and I learned a lot from you as well. So. Feelings mutual. Yeah.